Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Arledge. We now move to the next item, which is on the agenda shown on the board, which is public comments. Mr. DeBose, do we have any sign-ups?
Mr. Chairman, one person signed up, John Rice.
Hey, Mr. Rice, come on forward.
I'd like to thank you guys once again for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today. I come to you in kind of disconcern and wondering if I can get some answers. I know you guys can't answer me now. I've been coming to meetings for this is about my 5th meeting I've been to, and I've watched Mr. Gary's live stream of many of them, and it seems to me, and I could be wrong, that there's a hatred or a disconcern with things that Councilman Jones brings up. And if I'm wrong with anyone, please forgive me. But please don't let your hatred or dislike to Mr. Jones, from my opinion, judge what you can do for the county and cloud your judgment for the county. 4 to 5 sessions ago, Councilman Jones put a motion in pertaining to live streaming of the meetings, and not one person seconded his motion. The following meeting, it was brought up again by another councilman with pretty much the same motion, and it was seconded quickly. Around the same council meeting, I do believe, Councilman Jones brought up economic development and the number that was misrepresented on the county website. Seems that those numbers have still not been updated to be more accurate, and I wonder if anything has been done by the county or the council to increase economic development or to do any studies of what can be done on the money that was already spent on this project. And with all going on with the current solicitor, former solicitor, whatever you want to call him, Councilman Jones made a motion to have travel expenses linked individually instead of in a group so we can see who's spending what and have accountability. And no one seconded his motion. It was said that we'll discuss it later. I believe himself and Councilman Tucker both stated that it was done in prior councils, but not now. With so much going on with appropriations and stuff, I just feel that, you know, we need transparency, and I don't understand what the reasoning for no one wanting to do anything that Mr. Jones does. And like I said, I've only been coming to meetings for about two months or so and watching them, so I could be wrong, but these are things that I see, and just like I said, if there's any ill will toward Mr. Jones or hatred toward him, please don't let it cloud your judgment for the people of Kershaw County.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rice. Mr. DeBose?
That concludes the sign-up list.
Thank you very much, and that concludes public comments. We move now to another phase of public hearing, as you see on the agenda. A public hearing in regards to an ordinance regarding the flood prevention plan. We've already had 2 readings, led by Mr. Mike Conley, our esteemed zoning and plans individual. Mr. Carpenter, can you tell us a little bit about what this is, and then I'll open the hearing.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, we have tonight a public hearing related to the flood prevention plan. This is an update to the plan. It's a federally required update. The language that we are including has been provided to us by DNR in Columbia to make sure that our ordinance is consistent with state law.
Thank you very much. With that, I open the hearing for any comments from the public. The hearing is open. Seeing no one is coming forward, I will close the hearing, and we'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is adoption of an agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as displayed?
So moved.
First from Mr. Gardner, second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Arledge. Any discussion on the agenda? Seeing there is none, let's move to a hand vote. All those in favor so signify in favor. And it's unanimous. Mary, we move on now to approval of minutes. And if we can see that there on the screen, thank you very much. It's at tab A for your referral. Recognizing Mr. Arledge would need to excuse himself on this because he was not present from the September 11th meeting. Can we have a motion to approve the minutes as written?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Tucker, a second?
Second.
From Mr. Bozard. Any discussion?
Just thank you, Ms. Mary.
Yeah, very good. Seeing there is no discussion, we'll move forward very quickly to a vote. All those in favor, with Mr. Arledge recusing himself, so signify. And it's unanimous, and the minutes are approved as written. And we move now to a series of ordinances. First item, number 1, is the third reading of the ordinance regarding the floodplain prevention plan, which we just had a hearing on. It's at tab B. Is that it? I can't see that far. Let me bring it up. It is indeed. With that, can we have Mr. Carpenter first introduce it, please?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, this is the actual vote of the third reading of the ordinance that we just had public hearing on. Again, this has previously been discussed and reviewed by council. It was presented to council back in August. 2 votes have occurred since then. This is the third and final vote.
Very good. Can we have a motion to approve this on the third reading?
So made.
Mr. Bozard, and a second, please.
Second.
Second from Mr. Connell. Very good. Any discussion? I'll just say it was a lot of work. I'm sorry, Mr. Connell, you were going to say something?
Just since we're talking about floods, I was just curious to know, did we have any flooding events, significant or insignificant, in the county with Florence blowing through recently?
There was some flooding in the eastern border around the Lynch's River. That was the only real significant area that we had flooding.
Comments? I will say I specifically asked about that too, Ben, and what I was told is that the Sheriff's Department and the administrator who ran a very fine operations center here had used the floodplain map to inform the police to go out and check on people who might be in the floodplain. Remember 5 and 20 Creek right near Dobie Mill Fire Station was badly damaged and so on. So it had a great deal of utility. And what I'm hearing from the Wateree Association is it will help them very much out on the Wateree Lake and in very many ways. So a very fine effort. Thank you, Mike, for you and your team to bring that home. Other discussion? Okay, let's move to a vote. All those in favor on the third reading on the flood prevention plan signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous. We move to the second item, which is a third reading of an ordinance of the council to amend the zoning map for Ms. Patsy Miles. It's shown at tab C, and I think that's out on Highway 12. Mr. Carpenter, can you take us through it?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, you have in front of you tonight for third reading a rezoning of the county's zoning ordinance. Approximately 3.7 acres of land that is currently zoned RD2, proposed going to GD. It has been unanimously presented to council by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and council has previously approved it on 2 readings.
Very good. Thank you. Can we have a motion to approve it on the third reading?
So made.
Mr. Connell, a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Tucker. Any discussion? All right, pretty straightforward. Let's move now to a vote. Seeing there is no discussion, all those in favor signify by raising your hand. And again, it's unanimous, Mary. We move to the third item, which is a first reading of an ordinance setting the millage rate for Kershaw County. And very helpfully displayed is the millage from the previous tax period and the one going forward. It's in your book at tab D. Mr. Carpenter, can you introduce that, please?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, one of the quirks of South Carolina is that by the Constitution that we operate under, when budgets are approved by a council, the council approves a dollar amount. The council doesn't actually levy the taxes at that point. The levy is set by the county auditor, who is an independent official of the county. The auditor will recommend a millage amount necessary to generate the revenue that would be required to make the budget work. The county's auditor has provided us this millage and is presented to council for your approval on first reading.
Notice there's no difference between the 2 years. With that, can we have a motion to adopt the millage ordinance as written?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the millage rating that is proposed to us on first reading.
Very good. Can we have a second from Mr. Tucker, Mr. Gardner? Mr. Tucker, do you want to lead off?
I just want to say to my colleagues, thank you, and to Mr. Carpenter, administrator, and staff for working through this budget. And I know that the taxpayers are happy with no increases, and I know that we butted heads and knocked around a lot of different things, but overall, we got a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but most of all, we've got a good budget.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gardner, any comments?
Just, it was a very tough year, and it was a tough year to put it together and balance it, but Mr. Carpenter made it fairly easy, and we appreciate what staff and everybody did to make it as easy as it was. And it wasn't easy, but it was easier than it could have been.
Very good, thank you. Other comments? No tax increase is what the headline should read. We have treasurer back there. I hope you're happy with that, Jill. Thank you very much. Seeing there is no further discussion, we move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And the millage increase is passed on the first reading unanimously. We move now to council briefings, and that ends the normal agenda. I turn to Mr. Arledge.
I'd just like to say I appreciate the phone calls during my illness. I'm sorry I missed last 2 weeks ago, but I finally got turned loose the last couple of days to where I could get out. But the majority of you, if not all of you, did call and check on me, and I greatly appreciate my brothers here looking after me. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Tucker.
You're welcome. Yes, sir. I just want to say thanks to our emergency preparedness group, and I want to share a little light, Mr. Carpenter, on you, staff, and that whole group, because I wasn't aware of this until you start talking to some of the folks that work for us. Not only were we prepared here, and thank God, it missed us for the most part, but this group here in Kershaw County, you know, even elected officials like the coroner, was ready and was willing, if needed, to service in adjacent counties. I know the coroner had to cover part of Chesterfield for a period of time because they couldn't come across due to the flooding of the rivers in Chesterfield County and Darlington County. So we appreciate the joint efforts that this county continues to display, and not only taking care of their people, but taking care of South Carolinians. And I just want to make sure that you tell them that we say thank you. That concludes my report.
Very good, Mr. Gardner.
Just on top of what he said, I had a number of people just talk about how prepared and how well things ran from the perspective of being prepared for the imminent disaster that didn't happen. So got a lot of comments from a number of people who ran into other people, not many of them direct, but from other people who ran into other people from shelters, from just the way things were done. So appreciate all the hard work and preparation to make that happen.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Bozard.
Thank you very much. Councilman, in the back of the agenda package is an information, and this information there is on the zoning. I've asked this to be put on here because at the next meeting I'm going to ask it to be put on the agenda. I've had some phone calls from different people throughout the county wanting to use these containers for different purposes. And these containers right now, according to the zoning, is not allowed. And what I'd like to see done is this ordinance changed that we can allow the people to use the containers in their backyards without threats of from our zoning ordinance we have now. There are one or two changes here I'd like to see besides this, which we can talk about next time, but on here they want to put a fence around it, and I think we need to eliminate that fence. I don't want to see a fence go up around these containers. Also, it says in here you can only have one for every 20,000 square feet of property, and that's just a little less than a half acre. So I'd like to see that eliminated also. I'd like for y'all to take a look at it, and I'm going to ask that it be brought up at the next meeting we have where we can try to alleviate some of this restrictions we have on the citizens, and I think this would be one way of doing it.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Connell.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to update everyone on the Elgin Park near the Kershaw Health Elgin campus. We've accomplished all the due diligence we needed to do with surveys and otherwise identifying easements. We've met with Senator McElveen, and he's working hard on identifying PRT funds, which is Parks, Recreation, and Tourism funds, or having the item placed in the state budget for 2019 to have this nice little park, which would be, again, the first one in this portion of the county that would have been publicly funded, aside from the great addition of Potter Park in the town of Elgin. We hope to see that happen mid to late 2019, but I've discovered here in my short time in government that things do not necessarily move with due haste. But it is moving in the right direction. It's a beautiful, I don't know, what would you say, an acre and a half pond, 2-acre pond that we have there that the county owns, and it'll be a really nice feature for that area and for the local businesses too. So we'll keep you updated on that as it progresses.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Mr. Jones, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. I do have something I want to talk about. With much consideration and much thought, something that I was going to present tonight in my council briefing, I think I'm going to wait at the recommendation of the county attorney and discuss it in executive session. It'll be an employee issue dealing with the state ethics opinion that I got back. So we can discuss that in executive session.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I do want to say that I want to thank the people of Kershaw County. 3 terms they sent me back, now 4 terms. I'm going back for a 4th term. And being the minority vote is nothing new. I was the minority vote the first day I came on council. I think Jim Tatum was sitting out there back in 2007. And Sammy Tucker, you were still here, and we had a knockdown drag out, and it was on the front page the next morning. And I was voted down 5-1 because at that time Gary Elliott had not got on county council. But once he was vetted and approved and won his election, it was 5-2 for the first 4 years. But so that's nothing new from this council, from any other councils. One thing I do, I have a different, if I don't agree with you, I'm not going to sit up here and just rubber stamp. You know, I believe in limited government. I believe in government living within their means. I believe in working for the people, which I do. I get many phone calls every week, every day, start sometimes at 6 o'clock in the morning till late at night. My wife said, I was talking to her earlier today, she was telling one of my best friends, Paul Napper, and that's her executive director, they were talking, and she said, you know, Jimmy came in last night. He sat in the den on the phone, went out to the cabana at the pool, sat on the phone, went to the laundry room, sat on the phone, and went back inside for 4 hours. That's called constituent service. And I'm humbled that the people have thought enough of me to send me back. I will not change. I will not shut up if I don't agree with you. And it's not personal. It's my opinion. It's the way I feel. And I've always said, and I mean this is nothing ugly. I really don't mean this ugly, but I didn't run to befriend politicians and bureaucrats. I ran to work for the people of Kershaw County, and that's what I'm going to do. But having said that, I'd like to thank the council for this time to speak, and I look forward to our dialogue in executive session. Thank you.
Very good. And I'll close out the briefs here. Yes, we will have an executive session on contractual matter, led by the administrator, and then a personnel matter, 2 personnel matters now. First of all, I want to tell you that the world keeps moving, and it moves in this county because of the volunteers in this all-America county. We had the Jamboree this past weekend for fall sports, and the umpires were there, and the referees were there, and the coaches were there, and the little kids were out there, and our new athletic director led off for the first time, leading that controlled chaos. But we can't do it without volunteers. And then the Food for the Soul had a fundraiser on Saturday, again, volunteers. And then the Revolutionary War Run, again, volunteers. Chris, you were there, right? You should have run. Yeah, you took that as an excuse not to run.
Justin, yeah.
Yeah, excuse me, Justin, yeah. Yeah, thank you for showing up. I'm sorry, Justin, thank you. And then tomorrow we got Live Well Kershaw, right? And volunteers. What a county. And this weekend things continue with a Fire Fest, and we got 2 home football games. and the families who are supporting our football teams and volleyball teams, you can't pay them enough money. The volunteers make this county run. I just want you to know that. And in the same volunteer spirit, in a more patriotic vein, there's a war on right now. Many of you may not know that, but my son-in-law is going off to Afghanistan. Will Connell, Ben's brother, is going to be commissioned a second lieutenant on Thursday. And another fellow named Beck Robertson from this county is getting his second lieutenant commission. I'm afraid they're both going into the artillery and not into the submarine service, but these are real patriots, and that is a part of the DNA of this county. I'm just so very proud of this county. And I'm also proud of the fact that my counterpart in Chesterfield County, which got really hit real hard, has asked for our administrator to help him recover. How did we do it during Hurricane Matthew? And that's another example of the kind of county we are in and the kind of administrator we have. So these are matters of substance. I will close now by saying I want to recognize our guests. Mayor, thanks for being here today again. Live well Kershaw, and the president of our chamber. Thank you, Kim, for coming. And can you recognize our SCANA guest tonight, Peggy, please? Sir, thanks for coming tonight and staying late to see our council at work. And, of course, we have our treasurer. Jill, good to see you. With that, I turn it over to you, Vic, to lead us through, please.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, just a few items for you. You talked about the DNA of our county, Mr. Chairman, and let me give you some more examples of the DNA. Right now we have a crew of county employees, EMS employees, in Georgetown County. They'll be there till Wednesday, providing support and service as needed to them. We're on standby to send other crews as needed, especially as the flooding peaks, and then they start emerging from the flooding. Then they get into the period of cleanup and recovery. Again, county employees will be available to go and support. Whenever we do that, we obviously do it still taking very seriously our responsibility to our own citizens, so we never participate in something and put ourselves at risk. But these are volunteers who've taken their time when they're not working for the county to go and support our citizens. A team from Lugoff Fire is also there from Kershaw County. So our county DNA does run deep. Also, Mr. Chairman, members of council, I know we said that we dodged a bullet, but in dodging the bullet, we still had the following numbers. We had 64 people in our shelter spending 1 to 2 to 3 nights in our shelter. That's the most we've had in many years come to a shelter. We had another 20 in Food for the Soul, spending time in there. Our sheriff's department, double crews were out Friday night with chainsaws. And as trees did come down, they cleared the road themselves to the degree that we had very few road closings by the time the storm had come through because they were on top of it. But at the peak, we did have 4 roads that we did have to close at some point. Bridges over the rivers, mostly in the eastern part of the county, where we came closest to the impact from the storm itself. The state of South Carolina was very good working with us. We did have some needs that we had sent to them. They provided for us extra generators so we could have backup for our wastewater treatment system if power did go out, so that we wouldn't have to worry about overflows. So the state of South Carolina did provide us, and we had those generators in less than 24 hours from requesting. So it was a very well-oiled machine. We made a total of 385 social media posts between Facebook, Instagram, and other platforms that are out there. Of those 385 social media posts, those were picked up and amplified through a school district, through volunteer fire departments, through the chamber, through all entities working very closely together to get the same message. City of Camden, Lugoff Fire, total of 278,763 views were received by those media posts that were put out through Kershaw County. So getting the message out, we're getting better at communicating. We're learning what works. We're learning what we need to do better. Each time we go through one of these situations, we're better at it. We provide a better level of service to our citizens. If we had been unfortunate enough to be in the direct path of the storm, we would have handled it quite well without any problems. So you can rest assured of that. Members of Council, I would like to request a work session to discuss with you details. As you know, we've been looking at our sewer transportation system, the system that moves our wastewater through the county. Some upgrades, some updates that need to be done to it. Parts of it are fairly old, and I'd like the opportunity to sit down with you. I will suggest a date of October the 4th. That's next Thursday at 4 o'clock. Myself and Ms. Sigler will work to see if that's a date that will work with y'all. If not, we'll try to find another date, but that'll give us an opportunity to get together and go over detailed information I'll provide for you. Some of the summaries, I'll put it in your box so you have time to look at it prior to that meeting, and that'll allow you to be better prepared for questions, and so we can help you understand what we're looking to do. Mr. Chairman, that's my report.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask for clarification, please, sir? You said that was wastewater treatment?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep. Mr. DeBose.
I have nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
With that, we have an executive session. May we have a motion to move into executive session and return taking no vote? One is a contractual matter and 2 personnel matters. Can we have such a motion?
So made.
Mr. Bozard, a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Connell. Discussion? Just for the audience, we'll be back once our discussion is over with. We can do it in a small room here. Is that all right? Okay, very good. Let's move to a vote. All those in favor of adjourning temporarily for executive session, so signify. It's unanimous, and we are adjourned.